Good morning, class. Um, this is the fifth lesson for geometry. We want to find the value of x here. Of course, this one is a triangle. What makes it a triangle? Because there are three sides and there are three angles. Of the three angles, only one angle is given. There is another angle that is mentioned, identified, though it is unknown. Okay. Now, mostly when a question in geometry comes with a triangle, students start thinking of what? Sum of angles in a triangle. Of course, that is always nice. That is great. But the thing is, you cannot think of saying sum of angles in a triangle when only two angles are available. Yeah, though this one is unknown, this is the only one that is known. So this one is not even given. Nothing is there, it's not given. So we cannot even think of saying sum of to what? Sum of angles in a triangle to be equal to 180. So unless we know what is here, we get this angle, then we can apply the concept saying sum of angles in a triangle. So what do? Let us suggest an angle here. We can suggest any of the letters except O, because O can create a confusion. It could create a confusion simply because O resembles 0. So once we represent this angle with y, now we can assume that we are considering three angles. And the sum of angles in any triangle, not a specific one, is 180 degrees. So now we say x plus y plus 48 degrees equal to 180 degrees. In my previous video, that is lesson 4, I emphasized that in geometry, it is mandatory to write the reason when you claim that angles are equal. When you claim that the sum of angles is 180 or the sum of angles is what? 360. The reason is a must. Why? Because we have different cases where we sum to 180. We have different cases where we say angles are equal. So the reason is a must. So why? Because they are angles in a triangle. But how can we find the value of x when there is also another unknown? So we need to know what should be here. First of all, let's try to know what type of triangle is this. Now let's make use of three triangles here. Okay. First of all, this triangle is an isosceles triangle. What makes it isosceles? Because two sides are equal. Whenever you have a triangle wherein only two sides are equal, it means it is an isosceles triangle. When all the three sides are equal, it is what? Equilateral triangle. This one is an isosceles triangle. This one is an equilateral triangle. Okay. Equilateral triangle, all sides are equal, all angles are equal. Isosceles triangle, only two sides are equal and the base angles are equal. Not just two angles equal, the base angles. So we need to understand which are the base angles, and that is the reason I decided to place these three triangles. Okay. Now let us try to identify base angles of isosceles triangle. Okay. Now these two, when you see this indication in geometry, in lines, it tells us that they are equal. Now, these two sides are equal. These two sides that are equal, they meet at this point to form this angle. The remaining two angles are what we call the base angles of isosceles triangle. This side and this side, they are equal, meaning this and this, they are equal. But these two sides that are equal, they do not meet here. These two sides that are equal, they do not meet here. These two sides that are equal, they meet here to form this angle. So this and this, they are the base angles. Why the indication is like 2 to differentiate it from this. So here we have two curves like this one. So it means this and this are the one that are equal. Okay. This side and this one, they are equal. They do not meet here. They do not meet here either. they meet here to form this angle. Then this angle and this angle are the base angles. So what the theorem says about base angles of isosceles triangle, the base angles of isosceles triangle, they are always equal. So once they are always equal, so if this side and this side they are equal and they meet at this point to form angle X, so this angle and this angle are the base angles. And these base angles are said to be equal. Hence, y is equal to 48. So we say, but y is equal to 48. Why y is equal to 48? Because they are the base angles. Or simply say what? Base angles of isosceles. We say base angles of isosceles triangle. That is the reason. So since y is 48, now we can say this implies x, therefore x plus y, which is now 48, plus 48 equals 180 degrees. So x plus 96 equals 180 degrees. Then x is 180 degrees. We move this one, minus 96. So what is 180 minus 96? 4 plus 80, that is 84. So x represents 84. So this is what we have. Do not forget some properties of isosceles triangle. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow, share, like, and comment. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.